I'm going to be walking through a fictitious example where we have some kind of calculator service. And so basically what I want to do is I want to spin up a little simple application that is able to return users a response and process some inputs based on some logic. Like if I want to add 2 plus 3, I should get back 5. And so in my application, I'll write some source code. So, if this was Python, for instance, I'd write some source code, I'd have some method, I'd realize, oh, you're asking me to add, so I'm going to call my add method. I'm going to supply 2 and 3 as inputs to this method. And so a unit test would be something within my microservice. It's going to check to make sure that the add method is really returning 5 when I give it 2 and 3. And so this is making sure that the actual code you've written itself is working the way you expect it to. And so next we're going to move on to integration tests. And so with an integration test, the key thing to note with those is that integration tests are making sure that your source code is working with other services that might be out there. So part of my calculator might be wanting to log what inputs have been received over time to some kind of DynamoDB table, for instance. And so within my add method, I'm also going to be persisting the inputs, the 2 and the 3, as well as the output, the 5, to a log line within a DynamoDB table. And so what I would want to do in an integration test is call my add method and then make sure that I'm seeing in a DynamoDB table, the one that the microservice or my method should be writing to, that I'm actually seeing a new line appear there. So it's making sure that my service is interacting with another service the way I expect it to, outside of my domain. And so integration tests are what you would run after you've done all of your unit tests. So those unit tests are going to make sure that your actual source code still does exactly what you expect it to do. And then the integration tests are going to make sure that your source code is integrating successfully with other services out there, like a DynamoDB table, for instance. And so if you've passed your unit tests and your integration tests, you're like, this is fantastic. Now I can finally put this out into production and let other people use my application for their benefit. And so once you do this, that's great. And now what you need to worry about, though, is your service still doing what you expect it to do? And this is where you have Canary Tests come into the picture. And so Canary Tests come from this term canary, which is the bird that people used to use in coal mines because these birds would die really quickly if there wasn't enough oxygen, so the coal miners would know they needed to leave. And so basically Canary Tests are these things that are supposed to emulate the way in which a customer is going to be interacting with your particular service. And so a Canary Test is going to be a standalone service, completely isolated from your service. And the job of this service is to basically pretend to be a customer, or just pretend to be a customer and interact with your service the way a customer would. And it is not going to know anything about the internals of your service. It doesn't care. The only thing it's making sure of is that, every 5 minutes, let's say, it's going to call that add function of your calculator, and it's going to make sure that it gets back the expected response. And it's going to do the same thing with like the subtract and the multiply and the divide features of your calculator application. So that's where Canary testing comes into the picture. And so Canary tests are going to be that thing that's just run after you've built and deployed your particular service. And so these are the 3 important tests that you need to run as a software engineer to make sure that you're writing good code and you're delivering value for your customers. So that's going to wrap things up for this video. I hope it helps. Thank you all for watching, and be well.